What is up, everybody? Welcome into a special episode of Talk to Me here on NotFest.com. As always, I am Joshua Toomey, joined by the one and only Chris Akin. Chris, how we doing?
What is up, man? Ready to do this tonight, man.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a fun one, man. We're still recording live episodes through the holidays for you guys, and then we figured we would do a top 10 of 2022, man. A lot of great albums out this year, and just kind of going down our top 10 list of what came out.
Yeah, and this should be interesting. Now, so everybody's clear, we have not shared what our top 10 are with each other at all. So neither of us knows as of this minute what's coming up. So it should be really interesting to see where we collide and where we go very astray. So this should be good.
Right. And before we dive into the top 10, man, did you do anything good for Christmas over the holidays? Anything good coming up? Anything going on?
Not a damn thing over the holiday. I mean, I had dinner with my mom and my niece and my two of my kids on Christmas Eve. And that degenerated quickly into my mom telling horror stories about me as a kid. And then her telling even more horror stories about herself as a kid. I was like, holy shit, Mom. You know, my mom telling stories about drunk driving and drugging and stuff. I was like, holy smokes. No wonder I was such a disaster. Got it from you.
I'll never forget, man, the time that my family used to go camping a lot when I was, preteen, 10, 11, 12, like the whole family, a whole mom side of the family.
Right.
And they're like the church going every Sunday, they're doing, vacation Bible school and Sunday school and all that stuff. So just growing up, I thought they were as clean as could be.
Sure.
And then my grandparents went to bed and my uncles stayed up talking about all the shit they did as teenagers. And I was just like, oh my God, I was 11 or 12 hearing my uncles talking about getting busted with weed and drinking and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what kind of family am I a part of?
I know, that was so weird. I'm sitting there with, my mom, who's pretty, I mean, she's not mild-mannered. I mean, as I've talked about many times, she was always rock chick or whatever, but I never really totally get it until I'm sitting there and she's telling my niece and my kids these stories about her drinking and partying till like till the bar's closing and going to somebody's house after to keep drinking until the sun comes up and stuff. I'm like, oh my God.
Nice.
And then she's like, but then we had to come home because the babysitter was going to leave in the morning. I was like, holy shit, that's like when I was alive.
Oh man, my wife's family, big drinkers, like her mom and dad are big drinkers, right? And I found out recently that my mother-in-law's nickname is Peg Leg because she can drink everybody under the table, so everybody assumes she
nice, has a hollow leg.
yeah, there you go. So one thing at Christmas when you're the whole family's together and you're unwrapping presents, what's your go-to like the way that you guys do it? What's the order that it is?
Dude, back in those days when I used to do that, it was always like the kids would open everything, and then usually I would throw it to my ex, and then she would open her shit, and then I would just kind of casually open my stuff at the end. We tried all that stuff as your turn, then your turn, then that never works because nobody, as much as you think that everybody wants to see what everybody else got, nobody cares.
Right.
The kids sure don't care. They don't give a shit what their siblings got or what you got. They just want to open their stuff and get to that PlayStation or whatever.
We had all the kids over and, woke up for Santa Claus, all that stuff. And I grew up, youngest to oldest, youngest.
Sure. Okay.
Everybody, opens. Oh, look, I got a Tonka truck. Oh, I got this, blah, blah. And then you move on to the next kid, right?
Right.
Dude, my wife passed out the presents and then just said, go. It was pandemonium. I was just like, what is going on here? It was like, I didn't see anything that anybody opened. And next thing I know, it was just a pile of wrapping paper and
just paper flying everywhere.
It was crazy, man. So
that's fun. How many did the kids, did they? And if so, how many, who opened the wrong gifts? Like they were just tearing through stuff and they opened their sister's gift or their brother's gift or whatever.
Everybody pretty much. I don't think anybody opened the wrong gift. There was a couple times where because we both have boys the same age, so like we got them the same thing, almost doing almost like a twins kind of thing. But
Sure.
a couple times we had to like make sure they opened the same thing at the same time, so that you know someone wasn't mad. Like I wanted one of those, and you're like, and you don't want to be like, well, you do have one because we don't.
Well, try that one over there.
Try this one that's the same size. Yeah. Oh, and she did stockings first, which blew my mind too. Stockings are the last thing. Like I was like, we need to go back to the drawing board on Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, stockings is. I mean, what are you sticking stockings? You're just like fucking batteries and shit like that for the remotes or whatever.
Right. Batteries and, shampoo and
junk.
Candy. You want that's for the end, but I digress. Well, I hope everybody out there had a good Christmas, good holidays, whatever you celebrate, all that good stuff. And leave in the comments, your favorite gift or something. How about that?
How about it? Maybe we'll give you a late gift to get here with this list.
There you go. I did my top 10. I did have a couple of honorable mentions. We'll dive into those first.
Okay.
I did want to give I thought the new Ozzy was really good. The Patient number 9. It just didn't make my list.
Okay.
And then Wednesday 13 Horrifier. I thought he did. That was a really good album this year. Okay. Two honorable mentions for my list.
All right. I'm going to wing these because I did not have those ready, but if both of those are actually good and neither made my lists either, but I would have to say for honorable mention, one of them would be Korn, Requiem.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty solid, but just not near as solid as these here, but I listened to it a lot. So that's kind of how I gauge everything, is just how much I listen to it. So Korn would be one, and the other is a band nobody even knows about called Kill Ritual.
Okay.
They're just a thrash band from bullshit wherever, and I really don't know anything about them, and it's funny because I actually interviewed them and I still don't know anything about them, but they're what I do know is their album kills. It's just a thrash band called Kill Ritual. If you want to look that up. So those would be my two honorables before we get to the meat and potatoes of things.
There we go. All right, man. We'll go back and forth, and I'll give you the honor of giving number 10.
All right. My number 10 is probably the only thing that I have that's not like really, really heavy, because it surprised me how good it was. It's Tony Martin from Black Sabbath fame. He put out an album called Thorns.
Okay.
And man, this guy, I mean, how long has it been since he was in Black Sabbath? 30 years, 25 years, something like that?
Yeah, he's kind of like the forgotten guy of Black Sabbath.
Yeah. This thing's as good as anything he's ever done. Might be better than most of the Sabbath stuff he's ever done. I mean, it's just a fantastic listen. It's one of them records that you put on and it's just like gone. And then you look down, it's like 55 minutes have played. And you're like, wow, that thing was awesome. So for me, that was my number 10 was Tony Martin, Thorns, and I suggest everybody go check it out because it's really, really strong.
Yeah, I kind of got my list together. And I had a pretty decent order, and then today, as I was driving around, I kind of went through like one last time, and and this album came out and blew me away. And it's kind of the same thing with you. I wasn't expecting a lot, but as I was hearing singles and getting closer to it, I definitely got pumped for it. And then once I got it, I was just like, this was really as good as I think it is. And that's Skid Row, The Gang Is All Here. I'll go with number 10. I think Eric Gronwald did a fantastic job.
Sure.
Like we said, man, as these singles were coming out and the videos of Eric singing the classic Skid Row and just everything around it, man, this was the most pumped I've been for a Skid Row album since like Slave to the Grind.
Yeah.
So, and just kind of checking it out again, Hell or High Water is a jam.
Time Bomb.
Time Bomb's a jam. So I mean, there's so much good stuff on here. And so for number 10, I'm gonna go The Gang Is All Here by Skid Row.
Strong record, man. It didn't make my 10, which is probably stunning, but it's one of those records that just hasn't really left my player much either. I still am listening to it a lot. I think I would have liked it better if I could see it now. I so want to see them with that lineup.
Okay.
Before I can be like all the way sold, I guess, because I'm a big Skid Row fan and I do agree with you. It's a great record, but it's in the near honorable mention in my list. How's that?
Nice. There you go. All right. What do you got for number 9?
All right. Number 9, I'm going to make the management team happy. Number 9 for me, Lamb of God. Omens.
album.
Didn't not expect it to be good. Didn't necessarily expect it to be great either. I did not like the last record very much at all. And really, I haven't liked the last couple. You know, the what was the one before, the Dune Unstrung or whatever that was?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I didn't like that very much, and I didn't like the last one a whole ton. Man, Omen's just, what a punch in the face, man. I mean, it's just like a pummeling, one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest record Lamb of God's ever done.
Yeah.
And just pounding, man. I again, like I said, I didn't like the last two, so I didn't have a lot of expectation on this. And man, did it come out and kick ass. So number 9 for me, Omens, Lamb of God.
I'll go number 9. I have the band Drugs came out with the album Destroy Rebuild.
Yeah.
Drugs obviously stands for Destroy Rebuild Until God Shows, I believe is the actual name of the band. Craig Owens is one of my favorite singers out there. Got to interview him this year, got to meet him at Louder Than Life, got to see the band live once again. And this one was kind of a slow burn for me, man. I was so excited when it came out. I listened to it a couple of times. I wasn't sold, but then like you get those little earworms every once in a while, and you're like, you know what? I should go back and listen to that again and listen to it again. And this was actually an album that was going to be number 10 on the list, and then through re-listens, it moved up a spot in the Talk to Me list over here. So number 9, Drugs with Destroy Rebuild.
It's a good record, man. It really is a strong, isn't it? You know, before we get to number 8, just overall, forgetting the list for a minute, there's a lot of good music this year.
Yeah.
Don't you? Do you agree? I mean, it was hard for me to narrow to 10. My initial list, like, I don't know how you did yours, but what I did was I went to Wiki and I just looked at the list of metal albums released in 2022. And I just kind of wrote them down as I found them. And at one point I had like 63 names on the list. I was like, holy smokes. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. I listened to a lot. And then I kind of went through my Spotify Spotify and was like, okay, what did I listen to the most? And, you know, and then tried to narrow it down that way and then just narrow down to what I like. But I was surprised how many records. There was at least a record a week that was good this year, which does not happen very often. So
I think this is all the COVID records just came out. You know, it's like all these bands were sitting on all these great records. And the one thing too was really trying to go back and find records. And then there's, you know, this might be the only time we do a top 10 albums list, because next year might have to be like top 10 just singles or something, because there were so many times where I went back and I was like, all right, that band put out a song or 2 or 3 and that were really good. Like Nonpoint put out like Paper Tigers and things like that. But that was just a song, you know, or a song or 2. So there weren't full albums from some bands. And so many of the bands that we're interviewing now are just doing singles and just doing songs here and there. So actually finding 10 albums of material was a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, it was fun to kind of go back. And I did what you did, you know, looked at the Wikipedia, looked at who I interviewed this year just to see like, you know, any albums that stuck out to me there. And so that's where I came with my top 10.
Hell yeah, lots of good stuff, including this one at number 8 for me. This is not a reach at all. As much, it's the one I wanted to hate and don't. Megadeth, Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. As has been noted many, many times, I am all team Ellefson on that camp, and I wanted this album to suck more than anything. I really, really did, so that I could justify the fact that I'm a team Ellefson. And this is as good a Megadeth record as there's been in the last, 25 years. I mean, going back to the glory days, I would say.
There's that. I mean, I think that Dystopia is a really good album. So I
do too.
It's hard to say it's the best. I think the last couple of records have obviously been way better than kind of the middle part of the career.
Sure. The only problem I had with Dystopia was I didn't feel like it had that crunch to it, the big sound, but the crunch. This has the huge sound. I mean, this has arena sound, but it's still crunchy and heavy.
Yeah.
Great songs. The videos were a little much. I mean, they were kind of cool, but they were a little overkilly. But again, we weren't reviewing the videos; we're reviewing the albums. And song-wise, just a great record. So yeah, Mega Dave does it again. He comes with with it strong and hard, and Sick, Dying, and The Dead. Good stuff. Number 8.
Yeah, I think there's a few records on the list that we both talked about wanting to hate. And then as soon as they came out, we're like, fuck, such a good album.
Yeah, I
know. My next one, name of the the name of the channel.
All right.
Slipknot put out an album this year, The End So Far. This album I actually went back and listened to today. It is very single heavy. Like the singles are fantastic.
Sure.
Obviously if you like Slipknot, you're gonna like the album. A couple tracks other than the singles that popped out to me were like Hive Mind, things like that. Just so much good stuff on the album. And if you're a Slipknot fan, I think you will enjoy.
There you go. What's that? Number 8?
That'd be number 8.
All right. Number 7 for me, just because I love her. Arch Enemy, Deceivers.
Right. Nice.
Aside from my love of Alyssa White Glues, I cannot get enough of this record. It just, from the opening moment when they shared that video where it like just leads and just like, boom, and it just blows up, that whole thing just sucked me in. And the album is killer. I mean, absolutely killer. One of the, probably of my top 10, it's probably the best guitar album of the top 10. The guitars on this thing are absolutely crazy. Alyssa sounds as evil as she's ever sounded. Just a great record. Another super quick listen, man. You put it on and next thing you know, it's over. And, it's just great. So for me, number 7, Arch Enemy, Deceivers. That's mine.
Yeah, that's an album I need to dive into a little bit more, because I know that the single that we've or the video that we've talked about before is an incredible video. So yeah, an album I need to dive into. Yeah,
it's good, man.
My number 7 is an album you've already had on your list, is Lamb of God, Omens. Just an absolutely massive sounding record.
Yep.
Lamb of God is kind of one of those bands that they've kind of hit that Lamb of God sound, and if you like Lamb of God, you're gonna like Omens. And I one of my favorite tracks on there is the Denial Mechanism. Mechanism. Jesus Christ, learn how to read. But it kind of harkens back to that Burn the Priest kind of covers punk album they did, and Art Cruz just killing it on the new stuff, man. So yeah, Lamb of God, Omens, number 7.
Do you think that was like one of the, like I did? Do you think it's like their heaviest or one of the absolute heaviest things that they've done?
Yeah, it's just crazy how a band like that, just kind of continues to get heavier and heavier. And they're also one of those bands where it's, I've said it a million times on here, if you like metal, I don't understand how you don't like Lamb of God. Yeah. But I think that was clipped from something and put out on Knotfest. And a lot of people were like, well, agree to disagree on that one. I'm like, well, you're wrong.
Yeah, there's definitely people that don't like them. I honestly think it's just because they've gotten the right breaks, between the touring with Metallica and Slipknot and whatever. I mean, when they were a smaller band, they got all the right breaks to make them a big band. I think there's a lot of jealousy toward that band. So
it's crazy though too, man. If you go back and watch like even old Burn the Priest, like shit on YouTube, like all these just camcorder home videos of Lamb of God and Burn the Priest, like early back in the day. I mean, they still sound amazing back then, and so it's not like something that they just stumbled upon. They've always kind of had it.
No, they definitely did. And I don't get why everybody wants to hate bands as soon as they get popular. I never, I want my bands to be popular. Right. I want to be able to go into a club and play something on Touch Tunes or something. Yeah. And have like 4 other guys going, fuck yeah, dude. Right. Instead of chasing them out of the bar because it's not Bon Jovi or, whatever bullshit they're listening to, So
yeah, you don't want to be the guy that, as you're walking to the Touch Tunes, I'm like, not this guy again.
Yeah, or the guy. Now I've become that guy. I sit at my table with the Touch Tunes on my phone, and I'm just secretly putting on stuff because I don't want them to know it's me. I'm doing the fast pass and everything else just to make sure they don't know it's me, but still get my tunes in.
Nice.
But, all right, what are we up to? 6?
6.
Number 6 for me. Now we're going to get into the heavier stuff here.
All right.
This is a band that it took me forever to actually get into. And now that I'm into them, they cannot release enough music for me, and I can't stop listening to them. That is Meshuggah.
Oh, nice.
Number 6 for me is Immutable from Meshuggah, which is, if it's not the best record they've ever done, it's definitely the best record that they've ever done, which would be Chaosphere for me.
Yeah.
This thing is just, I don't know, man. It's like a migraine on top of a headache on top of eye pain from staring at the sun.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this weird concoction of odd beats and super, super heaviness. And they obviously have their own very unique sound. There's a song on it called Ligature Marks, which is maybe the best song they've ever done. It's a killer album. It's long too, which is good. It's over an hour long.
Wow.
So Meshuggah, they came back strong. And check this one out if you haven't already. Immutable from Meshuggah.
Yeah, they were one of the high spots at Louder Than Life this year, man. When they came out, they were all standing in front of like these light boxes,
right?
And it was like all the lights were kind of dim, where you couldn't see their faces; they were all just silhouettes. And obviously the crazy patterns and whatnot, but the lights were going along with the off-time patterns. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen on a stage.
Dude, they're cool, man. I love them.
My number 6, another album that we talked about how much we wanted to hate, but we love, and that's Totem by Soulfly.
Yes.
Man, it came out and it was one of those, we're team Mark Rizzo, or, a great friend of the show, Mark Rizzo kind of thing. Obviously, Max Cavalier been on the show many times, but we're just a huge fan of Mark and his playing and whatnot. And this album, I've said it multiple times, man, just kind of goes back to that meat and potatoes of Soulfly, just back to just the heavy, not over the top flashy. And man, it's such a great record.
It's back to the primitive, as they say.
This one was drug out of the Amazon, just like a Roots or something was.
Yeah, great record, as you'll see here in a minute, because it's on my list. It's on my list too. But it's an excellent record, and Max, credit to him, going through a time where he basically lost his main songwriter, or his main music writer, to come up with something as strong as this.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have really seen a really ugly, bad record, or something that he just whipped together with Dino to put out quickly. And instead he didn't. He found that whoever the guitar player is in the band, and he did a great job at just staying the course and doing good music. So yeah, it's a good record. I definitely like it. I like it a little more new, apparently. So
nice.
So where are we at? 5 for me. Guy we both interviewed, I believe. Kirk Winstein and Crowbar. Yes. Crowbar had the album Zero and Below. It is pretty typical Crowbar, except it's not quite as slow as a lot of the Crowbar stuff. It's a little faster, as Crowbar goes, I guess. I mean, you're not going to mistake it for Overkill, but it's right. It's a much more faster, kind of almost a downish type of a record, which not surprising. But Zero and Below, just an excellent record, and Kirk's an awesome guy, and he's a cool interview too. So that's one. I played the shit out of this thing all year long. Good record.
Yeah, that should have been an honorable mention on my part. I kept seeing that one on the list too, and I was kind of going back to it. Speaking of honorable mentions, my number 5 is one of your honorable mentions, Requiem by Korn.
Good stuff.
These last few albums, now that Head has been back in the band, have just been they go back to the meat and potatoes of the band. Yeah, I guess we've been saying that a lot, but they hit all the notes that you want. They bringing back a bagpipe and the scat vocals and whatnot. And Worst is on its way is probably one of, if I did a top 10 Korn songs, I think I would go with Worst is on its way. And but going back through that one too, man, this one kind of moved up my list when I did a re-listen. Just how great this album is.
Yeah, this one and then the one before it, the Nothing or whatever that was called. Yeah. Those two of the best Korn records.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it's weird because I think the shine is off of Korn a little bit. I mean, they still draw really well, but I don't think. I mean, it's not like the old days where they put out a record and they were just on everything, TV,
Right.
radio, football games, everything for the next 8 months. And I don't think people are talking about Korn as much as they used to, but yeah, great record. The last two have been really great. I'll be honest, I like Nothing a little bit better just because it's so much heavier.
Right.
But this one is more like traditional Korn, I think. It's definitely out of the, first album or third album or fourth album style or sound. Good stuff. I obviously I liked it as well because I honorably mentioned it. It probably could have made my top 10. So good stuff there.
Yeah, it's a good record.
Hell yeah. Well, moving up to 4, one we just talked at length about, so we don't have to stay here long. Soulfly, Totem. Love it. I'm going to thank my friend Chip Ruggieri once again. It has nothing to do with Totem, but for sending me the Soulfly box set. Still sitting right here on my desk, but but what a nice gift, and made me like Soulfly just a little bit more this year, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, I'll take over, man. Number 4, Machine Head of Kingdom and Crown.
Wow, that low, huh?
Yeah, this was another one. We talked about it at length. Rob and his posting and things like that just kind of went off the rails. But man, what an incredible record!
Yep.
Just honestly can't say enough about it. It's one of those, like, if you like the Blackening and that era of the band, I mean, they just kind of went right back into it. And Rob singing his ass off, screaming his ass off. And, the last, what was the last record that we don't talk about much?
Catharsis.
Yeah. Cause, Catharsis came out. I enjoyed it, but it was kind of a little too much, too almost rappy metal for me. And this one just comes back and just destroys Catharsis, man.
Well, I'm glad you liked Catharsis because I hated it. I hated it. I was not living life on a triple beam or whatever that was. Although I did like that song. I got to admit, I did like that song, even though it's kind of corny. It's a great record though. The new one, not Catharsis. Catharsis is a bag of shit, but of Kingdom and Crown is great, as we'll get to in a minute.
Nice.
Number 3 for me, I'm staying with the heavy and getting heavier and heavier. Creator, Hate Uber Allies, or Alice, ALLES, whatever that is. I don't know what to say about this band. They're damn near 50 years old. Right. And they're making heavier records than they ever did in the day. And they were heavy in the day. I mean, they just keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. This thing is damn near a death metal record. It is so blasting heavy and just fucking fantastic from start to finish. You just turn it on and you're just blown back in your chair and you can't really get up until it's done. Just great record. Definitely the best thing that they've done since like Flag of Hate and the early days of Endless Pain and stuff like that. So Creator, number 3 for me.
My number 3 is Bloodywood, Rock Shock. This album just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I loved the fusing of the Indian folk music and the metal, and kind of just the whole story behind the band, and obviously interviewing them and all that. And then just seeing them at their first US show, I mean, like tears came to my eyes just watching them, and the crowd was, I mean, they were early in the day at Louder Than Life, seeing them just kind of blossoming in front of me, or whatever you want to say, man. Just seeing them put on a killer show, the crowd giving it back to them, getting into it. Talking to the guys after the show, and just how the sheer excitement on their face. They're not jaded yet. Right. Obviously, it's just now starting for them. Everything all together, man, just really makes me love this album even more. And just it's just an all around great record, man.
Do you think that they could become similar to like Rammstein as far as not necessarily doing American music, but blossoming here in America anyway?
I don't know if they could get that big, but I mean, they could definitely be in that Gojira lane, kind of that level. Gojira, even a Sepultura, when they kind of came out, they were kind of the Brazilian crazy metal band, Now we've kind of got this Indian band that's kind of blowing up on us.
Yeah, that's about time.
Yeah,
well, we're due, so let's have that.
What's crazy about India too is just like America's 350 million people or something like that. Yeah. India's what, 1.2 billion?
Yeah, exactly. They
Like,
got so many more people.
You don't even need to. You're like, I get it if you want to break into like the Western music and things like that, but there's probably a bigger audience in India.
They're probably, but you know what? That kind of music's just not
Yeah.
accepted over there. Culturally, that can't survive. Culturally, they have to live with that music underground.
Yeah,
They
true.
probably can't wait to get over here and where they could do anything and say anything. As you said, when they played their first gig here, they were just explosive because probably years of holding back a little bit were just stripped away. So,
Oh yeah.
good stuff. But all right, where are we? Number two. Number two, the kings of Vikingism these days, Amon Amarth, had the Great Heathen Army, which is, I don't even know what to call this thing. I see them classified as death metal, and I'm not hearing death metal. I mean, maybe the Johan's voice is a little death metal-y or a lot death metal-y, but musically they are just a straight up metal band, heavy metal band, but they're just so regular. Like if you put just a regular voice on it, it would just sound like metal. And I know they're classified as death metal. Their shows kill. Not only do they have the best staging of any band that's not on a huge stage, they've done the best work with the smaller stage. And that rowing mosh thing that all the fans do now is the coolest shit ever. So when they put out a record, it's always going to be listened to a ton by me. This one was really, really great. Super happy to see, as a side note, something doing very, very well on Metal Blade. And instead of one of the bigger, all these other ones are on bigger labels, but it was good to see Metal Blade had a big release this year and one that was really, really solid. So Amon Amarth for me, number two, with the Great Heathen Army.
Yeah, that was one when I was speaking with Ricky Rackman the other day. You assume he's going to tell a story about, Pantera or, Megadeth or Danzig or something. And that was the one he was just like, he was gushing about Amon Amarth and how great they are. So
are you not into them, or?
It's one of those that, like, every time I see live footage and things like that, I'm always into it, but I've just never sat down and like, today I will journey into Amon Amarth.
I don't know that you'd like them really, because they're a little more, like I said, they're a little more deathy, I guess.
Oh yeah,
as far as vocally, vocally, I don't think you would dig them a ton, but musically, I think you really would, because they are straight up metal, man. They're nice. Strong, like them.
Well, speaking of straight up metal, my number two was an album we spoke about earlier. Megadeth, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. Man, this album is just one of those I just keep going back to, and every time it pops up on the Spotify, I tend to listen through it, and all the singles have been great, and I enjoyed the videos. I thought the videos were kind of cool, kind of giving a backstory to Vic Rattlehead. Just something kind of cool that they did.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Oh, let's see. Number one. We already talked about this guy. I hate doing it, but number one, Machine Head of Kingdom of the Crown. Yeah. I can't stop listening to it. I listened to it again today, all the way through. It seemed like it was on for about 3 minutes, and it was like an hour or whatever it is, the length of the record. It's just great. I guess I have to just put it in my head to never count Rob Flynn out, because he's done this to me a couple of times now. He did it to me with The Burning Red. He did it to me with Supercharger. He did it to me now with Catharsis, where I was like, this band's over. They're not going to make it back. They're not going to make it back. And then this album came out, and from the first song just rips your fucking face off, and it never lets up. And I love this record. It's not only my number one of the year, but it's my number one by a hell of a lot. Wow. I probably played this album probably twice as much as any of the other things on my list. Great record.
Nice, man. Yeah, a great record. Like I said, it was number 4 on my list, and definitely could have been number 1 this year. But my number 1 was actually almost my number 1 last year, because they released so many singles.
Did Deftones have something this year?
The Deftones did not release anything this year. Hopefully 2023. But the band Memphis May Fire put out Remade in Misery. They were kind of doing that thing where singles came out. Actually, I just see it now. They almost released this entire album as a single at one point.
Right.
June 3rd, 2021, July 14th, 2021, August 27th, 2021, on and on and on. And then finally it all came out, this year. and on June 3rd, 2022. And it's crazy is they put so many songs out, but my favorite song on the entire album was the song they didn't even release, which is a song called Misery. And it was my number one on Spotify. It's anytime it comes on the Sirius, you got the little bookmark on Sirius, so it pops up no matter what I'm listening to, switch over to it. Just kind of keep going back to it, man.
Sure.
And it's one of my favorite records. And then obviously, Matty Mullins saying hello to me and saying, "Hey Josh, how's it going?" That's always good too. When I saw him at Loud in the Live last year. Nice. But no, man, I mean, just, this is one of those bands too that I was aware of, but I didn't really listen to until it was like, I was doing Throwback Throwdown. And so for Throwback Throwdown, I'd always have two guests on. And then with, Talk To Me, that would be a third guest. So like 3 guests a week.
Sure.
And I'm just kind of like, what do you got? What do you got? Who you got? And I got, pitched Memphis May Fire, and I was like, heard of them, I'll dig into them and have them on the show. And that's one band that I've really found through podcasting that I love. And,
nice.
So Memphis May Fire, Remade in Misery is my number 1 album of 2022.
Wow, look at that. Boy, if they don't share this, number 1 on Knotfest, if they don't share this, there's something wrong with them at this point, because that's a big get for them. It's a great record. I will say, not my top 10 because it's not really my style, more or less, really, honestly, but it is great. It's a good listen, and they're a strong band. I've seen them. I've seen them once or twice with other people, and they're good. So good stuff.
Yeah, they were not this year, but last year's Louder Than Life. And dude, they were like a last minute addition, and they had just gotten off tour, I think with Korn actually. And they basically rolled in, just threw their gear on the stage and just blew everybody away there too. So yeah, from the live show to the interviews to the actual album, man, great package all around.
There you go. Well, dude, what do we have? About 16 records that we offered between,
yeah, that was about
like 3 or 4 that are crossovers, but we gave people 16 choices of things to listen to for the next week or two.
I was actually surprised that Skid Row didn't make your top 10. I thought, it was kind of like it was kind of like an ongoing, like, I think that might be in the top 10. And
yeah, it's there. It's just not all the way there. And, and it's, I kind of died down on it a little bit just because I like overkilled it at first. When I first got it, I was playing it nonstop. And then I kind of, when they announced the tour and it ain't coming here, I was like, oh, sons of bitches,
You're out of the top 10 because your booking agent didn't.
Your booking agent took you out of my list.
Your booking agent.
It's a good record though. I do like it.
Yeah, I think of all of the classic stuff. Yeah, that's definitely definitely some of the best stuff out. The one thing you were talking about with the Creator album and stuff too, man, that's the one that, we went through that period of time in the 90s and early 2000s where like our favorite bands from our childhood were putting out these just dog shit sounding records. And then now, with technology and Pro Tools and plugins and all that stuff, like it seems like people are really putting out just quality music now.
They are. They definitely are. And dude, I'm just amazed at all these bands that are this old that are putting out heavier and better stuff. I mean, I know we always talk about the big 4, but the European big 4, I think all put out records this year and they're all great.
Yeah.
The Tankard record was really good. Creator's really good. Sodom was really good. Who's the 4th one? I can't think of who the 4th one is now. Whoever it is, it was really good.
It was
great. It was the best of the bunch. I don't know why I'm brain dead on this, but all of those bands, all those old bands are still doing, where like in the hair metal bands, all those bands are kind of sucking these days, or a lot of them are really. But the heavier bands, even the US bands too. I mean, when you look at Overkill, Testament, Death Angel, all these bands that have put out records the last 2 years, they're great. They're all great records. It's like, when are these fucks going to slow down? They're all grandfathers at this point.
That's the one thing. Like, I obviously I don't have a list in front of me of albums in 2023, but I know Testament looks like they're coming out with something new with Lombardo on drums. That'll be fun to kind of hear a new studio album with them. Yeah. New Obituary is really good. I will be interviewing Donald Hardy for that one coming up soon.
Nice.
Speaking of like just anniversaries and things like that, man, 30th anniversary of River Runs Red. They're going out on tour. That tour will be coming here. Life of Agony will be coming here in March. So I'll definitely, and they're playing the album in its entirety, one of those tours.
Nice.
So I will definitely be at that, man. 30 years. That's one that's kind of hitting me. Like, I can't believe that album is 30 years old. Like I was like, oh, what is this? Like the 20th anniversary? And they're like, no, it's the 30th anniversary.
All right. Just because I want to feel old here. Did you see them on that tour, on River Runs Red tour?
I'm trying to think when the first time I saw him was. I know I saw him on Ugly. I feel like I saw them on the River Runs Red tour.
I saw them at the World Series of Metal, and whatever year that would have been, 95, I guess, or 94, whatever year it would have been. You're gonna love this because you won't believe that I sat through this. It was the main three bands were Life of Agony,
nice,
Deftones,
there you go,
and Anthrax in one of the oddest lineups of all time.
Yeah, that was like early on Deftones too, man.
Yeah, that was the 7 Words Deftones. That was when they were good.
You
let that slide, okay?
No, I know how much you're loving that new Crosses single. So
I do. I very much like that song. Very good.
It was funny because when I listened to it, I was like, I'm going to send this to Chris. I think he'll like it because I know you have that soft spot for the 80s pop.
I do.
First time I don't think it's the first time I saw Life of Agony, but I know it was the Ugly tour because they opened for it was Life of Agony, then Korn, and then Ozzy.
Okay.
And I was take my metal card now, but like I was there for Life of Agony and Korn, and Ozzy was just like a bonus, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
But because it was Korn's first record, it was Life of Agony, Ugly, and they were. It was just a great. I think that was the Retirement Sucks tour.
I wish we would have gotten that. We had that tour, but we didn't have Life of Agony. We had Deftones.
There you go. Well,
and I saw them a second time. I've seen Deftones like 4 or 5 times, and I've never really dug on. Do you think they're a good live band?
Yes.
Do you think they've always been a good live band?
Yes.
See, we just agree to disagree fully on that. Because I've seen them a few times where I just was like, I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take Chino's whining, and I really couldn't take, even more than his whining, I couldn't take the guitar sound that they had early on, that fuzz boxed thing. It sounds like, from what I understand, they have a more full sound now.
Well, that's the thing is I that's what always blows me away when people talk about liking Adrenaline more than anything else that they've done, because the guitar sound on that album just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's awful.
But like now, I mean, obviously they've refined the sound or whatever, but I thoroughly enjoy the band, and I'm one of those people, like, if you don't like a band I like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm not like, dude, Chris, fucking give me your fucking metal card, Chris.
Believe me, when people hear my pop collect, I list my top 10. It's all these brutal, heavy things, and it'll mix in perfectly with Frankie Valli and Tiffany and shit that plays in my player, and people are like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was the thing. I was actually trying to figure out if there's any pop and stuff like that came out this year that would have jumped on the list, but nothing really jumped out. No. No new Bruno Mars record or anything this year.
Yeah, when is that guy going to do a record? It's been 8 years.
It's been a while, but man, can't go wrong with some of the early Bruno Mars stuff.
Nope, certainly cannot.
I think he's one of those people who probably end up with doing what do you call it? Singles from here on out.
Probably. So you know what though? The guy put out 3 records, and like every song on them was a hit. So, does he need to do more? Does he need to do full albums?
Right.
He played the Super Bowl off of 2 records.
Yeah. Doo-wops and hooligans and unorthodox jukebox, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Cannot go wrong. And 24K Magic. Jeez.
Yeah, he's had a lot of hits. You look at the album. If you look at those albums, though, every song.
Oh yeah.
If you're a pop guy, if you're into pop, every song on those records. Gorilla and When I Was Your Man and blah 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 blah. And boy, we're really doing a metal show here today, aren't we?
But hey, it kind of dissolved into this. We've talked about this, man. The Bruno Mars show that I saw was, I think, right when that Gorilla song came out.
Yeah.
that was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. Like,
yeah, he's
just
good, man.
You want to do a top 10 list of shows I've seen, he's probably up there with, him and Garth Brooks.
Yeah, dude, both of those would make my top 10 too. Garth Brooks, I don't even like country, like even a little bit. Right. I'm just not a country, but he doesn't do a country show.
Right.
He does like a rock show, like a big rock show with shit blowing up and big staging, and he's running around and rolling around on the ground and going crazy. I mean, he's fantastic.
What's crazy about those shows too, here we are talking about Garth Brooks on the Slipknot channel, is the fact that he does like a 2-hour show, and then everybody clears out of the arena, which is 20,000 people, and then 20 new thousand people come in, and he does the same exact show. Like I saw, my aunt went to see the fourth show, like the second show on the second night, and she said he had as much energy as he did first night. Like he just. Must be some good drugs or something. But Jesus Christ,
if you're making $2 million an hour, I think you'd probably find some extra energy too.
Yeah, put it into the drugs.
That's right.
but yeah. So if you guys have seen Bruno Mars and or Garth Brooks, put that in the comments section too.
Yeah, under a fake name,
right? Because Chris and I have obviously lost our metal cards a long time.
Yeah,
ago.
long time ago.
But yeah, man. So, what was your? We'll go with one last question here. What was some of your favorite interviews you did over the year this year?
Geez, I don't know.
Again, I don't even know.
I don't know, dude. I've done so many that I really don't know. I really enjoyed talking to a guy named Michael Gabriel, who's Prince's godson.
Oh, nice.
That was a really fun one. I don't know, dude. I just like talking to bands in general. Just more. Yeah. I like where I'm at now. I don't know that I could actually pick like, well, this was the best or whatever.
Right.
As much as I just like that I've gotten to a point now where a lot of the band guys know me a little bit.
Right.
To where I don't have to do interviews anymore, where I can just kind of chill and just talk to guys, like I'll point to one that makes sense for the channel. John Campbell.
Okay.
John Campbell from Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to him, I didn't have to be like, so you have a new record. How was that? Where did you record? What was that?
Right.
It was just kind of shooting the shit because I've run into him, 25 times over the years, and we could just kind of talk about stuff, and it was cool and it was fun. And I've really gotten, I think all my interviews have gotten more and more like that. Yours too. I mean, you've really gotten a lot more comfortable than you were 5 years ago when you started, or 6 years ago, or however many years it's been. Has it been 6?
7.
7? Jesus. We are getting
right.
we are getting old fast. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you listen back to the ones that you did when you first got rolling, you probably hate them. You hate them, right? You're like, oh my God. Because especially when you can hear yourself reading too. Like I used to do that in the early days. I'd be like, so what is this new record all about? I'm like reading it.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever actually written down questions, even in the early days. I've always been bullet points, but I don't know if I've had actual questions written out.
No, I definitely did in the early days. And I heard my interviews. I was like, not doing that anymore.
Well, it's funny because even I've been really going in and diving into some of the older interviews and pulling clips for TikTok and things like that. And just kind of listening, like obviously a lot of it's the Jason Newsted interview. And it's funny even hearing that interview, because obviously I'm like, starstruck or whatnot, just kind of talking to him. Sure. So it's kind of funny. I'm like, get your shit together, Josh. You can do this. Even back then. But it's kind of cool to go back and listen to some of these interviews, because when you do the interview, I'm on to the next interview and I forget about what I've already done.
Sure.
But, when you're kind of doing these, kind of going through and just pulling clips and things like that, you're like, man, I've really talked to a lot of cool people.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, we've talked. I mean, honestly, I won't speak for you, but I'll speak about you and definitely for me.
Yeah.
Who's left?
Yeah. I mean, it's Hetfield at this point, Yeah.
And I mean, even for me, I've met Het a bunch of times. I've never interviewed him. I'd like to, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, dude, even the guys from the channel here, I fucking watched the Super Bowl with Slipknot one year.
Right.
I sat in the dressing room watching the Super Bowl with them at the House of Blues in Cleveland. It's like, okay, that's way more of a thing to me than it ever would be if Corey Taylor was like, hey, let's talk about the new record.
Right.
You know, that'll always be my highlight of Slipknot, is that time that I sat watching. It was the Giants and Patriots, I think, you know, whatever year that was. But
Oh, wow.
but it was, I still remember just sitting there, and those guys were just hanging out with me like I belonged there watching the Super Bowl. It was really fun.
Nice. Kind of looking back over the year just to see, you know, what I did this year, and obviously starting out the year strong with Jelly Roll. That was,
That was
up until recently. That was one of the highest downloaded episodes of the Knotfest era of the podcast.
God, was that already a year ago? Jesus,
January 2022.
Oh my God.
Derek Green of Sepultura. That was a great one. You know, Matty Mullins, you guys go back and check that out. John 5, Max Cavalera, Carla Harvey, always great to have on the show. Sergio Vega talking, you know, getting kicked out of Deftones.
Right.
Wade McNeil from Alexis on Fire, man. Well, that was I ended up being a really cool one. You know, when we had GFM on the show, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
those girls were fun.
Gina Hoagland, always great. Fred Corey, that was a good one. Can't ever go wrong with Fred Corey. I don't know if you saw this on my Facebook or not. But I took a picture of my backyard because it's covered in snow and there's trees and it's, you know,
right.
The woods out back. And I was like, you know, black metal bands available for photo shoots. And then I found a long cold winter era shot of Fred on a horse.
Right.
And I was like, oh, look, Fred Corey stopped by on his horse. And Fred jumped into the comments and he's like, sorry for what that horse did to your backyard or what he left you in your backyard.
Nice.
And I was like, it's all good, man. It was just great to see you. He started laughing.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, Nick Nocturnal, fun. You know, Max Keller, again, two interviews with Max this year.
Yeah.
Levi Ben, the Art Cruz interview. The Art Cruz was the guy that, one of those you walk away from thinking, you're like, man, that's my new best friend.
Right.
The Louder Than Life interviews were great. Chris Garza, Monty Pittman, Mariah and Ashley from Plush, the Until I Wait guys, the In Flames, and my favorite, one of my favorites from that was Amigo the Devil. He ended up being a very fun interview.
Right.
Then obviously Craig Owens and then Daryl from Snapcase. The Snapcase episode was probably one of my favorites just because it's one of those anniversary episodes where you get to talk about a specific record that you love a lot. So you don't have to be like, so tell me about the new album and then try to sneak in like an old school, question here and there. So that's always fun.
Hell yeah. Yeah. You did a lot of good ones, man.
Yeah, Ricky Rackman. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. That Mike Mushock interview is actually a lot of fun too. So yeah, go back and listen and watch all of them. Damn it. Yeah,
they're all on the YouTube channel, and they're all behind the paywall that you should be subscribed to anyway. So
subscribe to, or check out the audio for free.
That's right, but don't check out the audio for free. Pay the fucking $5 or whatever it is.
You cheap bastards.
Just pay the $5. Jeez, it's great content.
Well, I think that'll do it, man. We stretched this one out long enough, but leave in the comments, the comments your top 10 of the year. Where did we get it right? Where did we get it wrong? Which was nowhere. And just tell us what your favorite records were of the year. How about that? Yeah,
be good to see what everybody else is thinking. Maybe we missed stuff. Maybe that's the best part of the comments too. This year would be, what did we miss?
Right.
Tell us what we missed so we can go back and listen to it.
Definitely. So for the Talk to Me podcast here, notfest.com, I've been Joshua Toomey.
I'm still Chris Hagan.
And we will talk to you soon.
See ya.